Hi all. Today, me, myself, and my friends from the ProThoughts Solutions thought about one very interesting topic to all the project managers and all the people that are in one or the other way connected to project management. And the topic that we thought would be very exciting for actually knowledge sharing, experience sharing, but also some good case practices sharing is around the frameworks of the methodology that can be applied to all the projects. So the question that we are going to try to answer today, or actually the question that we are going to get our brains working around on is, can one framework or a method apply to all and any projects? To start the session off, let me first introduce myself, since I think this would be a maybe good icebreaker. Hi, everyone. I am so sorry that I cannot see you all, but I hope you can see me. My name is Milena Jakimov. I come from Belgrade, Serbia. It's one small country in Europe. I hope you either have had a chance to come and visit, or you will. We are one friendly country that actually is well known for its food and very hot summers once they are here. I'm currently working as a head of PMO at one telco. It's called Yetel Serbia. It recently, my company rebranded to Yetel. Until recently, we were known as Telenor Group, as a part of Telenor Group or Telenor Serbia. I'm very passionate, as you can see on this slide, about project management, about actually empowering the project management community and project managers. And I consider myself lucky to have had the opportunity to actually work in the different environments that are either fast-paced, but or let's say cross-country or cross-functional environments that actually value projects and that love working in the format of a project. So I will be happy to share my experience and my knowledge throughout this session. Unfortunately, today we will leave the questions for last section. So please make sure that during the time that I will be sharing all these information and questions and let's say moments for thoughts with you, please, if you have any discussion points, any questions, any unknowns, or any clarifications that you would like to hear, write them down, and then at the end of the session we can chat about them. I will make sure to leave enough time for it. So what we will have in front of us today and what we want to achieve today, well, I wanted to discuss about you firstly about the most common challenges that we face in project management. What are those? What is something that we all struggle with? What is something that we all go through in our daily jobs, in everything we do? But also I wanted to discuss about what drives us there, and how do we actually overcome all of those challenges and all of those situations, and what are maybe some things and methods that can help us come through it, or come through and deliver what is expected of us through the projects that we are leading. Also, I wanted to actually touch base on maybe some tools that we can find very useful when actually leading our battle, let's call it like that, or actually when trying to deliver projects successfully. Last but not least, as I mentioned at the beginning, we will leave enough time for the questions and answers. So to dive straight in and not lose any more time on the introductions, let's start with a question that I would have asked you even if we are in the room all together. I wanted here to touch base on and to start about thinking about the projects itself by thinking about what actually are common challenges that we all face when managing a project. So what do we find ourselves struggling when we want to have one single method or steps or a process to a project delivery? What are those things that we fail on once we actually invest a lot of time in planning, a lot of time in gathering requirements, a lot of time in actually making things work on the project side, but actually we don't deliver the business need that we started off. And the question that I would like us all to think about is how do we find the balance? How do we find the balance between the business need and something that our project owners or business owners ask of us? And how do we find the balance between actually delivering that in the certain frame of time, of scope, of money or funds that we have for that project? How can we actually make ourselves efficient? How we as project managers can adapt? And what are those things that we can do proactively on our side? How to be ready? So those are some of the questions that I would like ourselves to ask ourselves on today's session, but also to get some answers. To follow up on that note, I want you to think about what happened to the project management golden standard. If you remember, like, I don't know, a number of years back, when people think about project management, they think about the simple steps or simple 2-3 phases that actually can make any project work. So you initiate the project, you plan it, you execute it, and you close it. So what happened? And these simple steps don't work as well as they did. And where is the secret to actually making it work? How do we as the leaders in program management area in our organizations or business units make this work? The answer is simple, but not simple really. The answer lies in the fact that we all work in the different environments, that the environments make us shape the way how we deliver projects, how we think about them, how we structure them, and actually the environment itself shape the way we do come from the idea to actual delivery. So how can we deliver a successful project? Well, when we talk about how do we deliver, and when we think about all the tools and the methods that we have ahead of us, and all the challenges that we have once we have the business need set in front of us, is actually a big task put in front of any project manager. And the answer is actually, if we start from anything that is out of the box, it will probably, there is a high probability it will not work for us. And why, as I mentioned before, is because the environment is different, the circumstances are different, the teams are different, the expectations are different. So what can we do as a project managers? The simple answer to that question is to tailor our project methodology, to make sure that we are well informed and let's say well knowledgeable in the aspect that we are curious about the new methodologies and what they bring, to try to understand our organization best as we can, and to best fit our project and our team into the environment that they work, in order to be able to actually deliver the project that is needed. When we talk about how to tailor project delivery, how to actually find the best balance between the approaches that we have ahead of us, and also how to recognize which one is the best or the best for us for that situation, it drives us to the moment that now we are actually thinking about how to adapt and how to tailor project delivery by choosing the approach that shows the best balance between the tools and the techniques we know to actually ensure successful delivery. Why is this important? I like this sentence at the, let's say here, the title of this slide, because not all projects are created equal. Really, the different project factors and the different situations force us to actually think about the implementation of the project in the different way. Makes us actually think and be very open-minded in the ways on how do we make it happen. I have had the, let's say, many situations where my business owners and the very, let's say, senior executives have came to me and to my team asking on, look, we have this big strategy on how to position ourselves as a leader in this area or a leader in that area, and we know what we want to do, and we know where we want it to be seen and what do we want to communicate, but we don't know how. I mean, they are not that, to be honest, they're not always that honest in saying that they don't know how, but they actually come asking for us to give them structure, to give them framework, and to give them let's say, ways on how to successfully deliver their vision by actually structuring the projects, the initiatives, and everything that comes behind it. That's why I say projects come in many different shapes and sizes, and those shapes, sizes, and environments bring the variety of ways on how to deliver them. There is more than one way to get things done. We all know that. Some take more time, some take more money, some take more effort. It's just to finding the best balance for the situations that you feel that you find yourself in. So where do you start? You examine what project factors matter the most for the result of the implementation of what is in front of you. What are stakeholder requirements? So, okay, then coming to that, what is the nature of the product or the project that you need to deliver? What are maybe some most common bottlenecks that you are facing in your organization when it comes to any project that you have in front of you? All of these factors drive you to reveal the areas of opportunity to tailoring your project delivery. Tailoring your project delivery actually will bring you to the moment where you will shape up your methodology in the ways that best suits the let's say project endeavor that you have in front of you. Why do I say that projects are not equal? I have here given just some examples, and let's think about them. So, for example, if you have an infrastructure project, IT infrastructure project in front of you, and it's something that needs to be done just because it will ensure smooth business operations as they did, as you had them up until now. Thinking about that and that, let's say, that goal that you have to deliver, thinking about the scope, thinking about the budget, thinking about how and what the way of the work is, actually drives us to the moment where we can define the method and the steps on how do we deliver it. Because a lot of things are known here, a lot of things are dependent on it, and it helps us also in some way within our organization to prioritize it. Second example would be of a completely different type of a project would be a new product launch. So anything that you for example, in our company, we are big telco, so we launch different products often. Sometimes those projects are sometimes those products are digital. Sometimes those projects are seen in just an offers for our clients, but it also affects so many other things. It affects those projects are the ones that are fast-paced, because by the time you have the idea that you want to launch a new product and the time that product hits the market, it's, for example, 6 months. In 6 months, telco market changes very fast. So you have to be very adaptive. You have to be very quick in reactions in the things that you're going to implement in order to hit the mark, because your end goal is, of course, profitability, customer satisfaction, and of course, market positioning. And the third one that I just wanted to give as a completely different shape of a project would be, for example, a vendor solution software. So many of us, or many of you actually have, I'm sure, had a chance to work for a vendor, for a company that actually specializes in software implementation and solutions. And when working with customers, those customer-facing projects are completely different. Maybe your company as a software solution vendor is very agile, very quick, very technical oriented. But what happens if you hit the client, or if you start working with a client who is very rigid, who doesn't know that much about either the methodology or the ways of work? So what does your approach actually stays in the ways of work that you're used to, or that IT industry has been used to work, or are you going to adapt in that situation? So I think here I try to just give you a different views on how projects can be different and why they are not all equal, but also to get some better understanding of what can we do when assessing the project and the environment that helps us pick the best framework or methodology to apply. This brings us to actual methodologies, right? You have all, I'm sure, heard, and some of you maybe are even well knowledgeable about some of these methodologies and or approaches to project management. So most common ones, so let's just here briefly remind ourselves to all of them. So most commonly and widely heard, I'm sure, is the waterfall approach. Then we have the agile approach, something modern, something that everybody strives for. And then I wanted to maybe touch base on the tailored approach, on what does it mean to actually make sure that you have the right mix for you. So traditional project life cycles takes advantage of the things that are like waterfall, takes advantage of the things that are known and proven. It allows teams to actually focus on the specific fixed requirements, on the groupings, invest a lot of time in planning, invest a lot of time in building, and then after that releasing and testing. However, I'm sure that most of you have come across with a situation where requirements are changed, and when time also changes along the way of one project life cycle. And these are the things that this kind of strict approach is not very flexible on. So once you have the solution ready, and once you have worked on the delivery of the scope, there is really not that much room to reprioritize, to maybe rework, or any additional work would be too expensive. So what do we do then? Then we come to the agile approach, and it is simple to say, like, if you're not comfortable to for example, wait several months to see the end result, or if you have the requirements in your project that change from time to time because the market changes very often, or because you have a very high competition in the company that you work in, so you need to respond to them very easily and very quickly. And if you are looking for the approach which is iterative, which is in a smaller chunks, then maybe agile approach would work better in that situation. So the goal would be to deliver complete product or a complete delivery in a smaller sections that can be let's say that can be formed or that can be prioritized in the way that that they are significant to the organization more, and that they can incorporate the feedback along the way. Tailored approach is something in between. In my experience, for example, I work in the corporation, the big one, so it is not that easy to choose one approach. And for us, we struggled for many years to actually choose the right methodology and the right framework, because one part of our organization would like to lean more to the quicker solutions. Other part of our organization would rather lean on the traditional solution. So it took us some time to actually figure out what our environment needs the most. And where we landed was to tailor the approach. What does the tailored approach mean in general? In general, I would say it would mean for your organization to use all the tools and the methods in the known methodologies to fit them in one framework that works for you and that works for your organization, and to make it work. It doesn't need to have a well-known name like a waterfall or agile. It can be just yours, and it can just use the best practices that work best for your delivery to make sure that you hit the marks on what is important for your environment. To focus some more on the actual frameworks, I have tried here just to maybe share some, let's say, characteristics of each of these, let's say, highlighted frameworks. So traditional project lifecycle or the waterfall are usually, let's say, bound by fixed requirements, by strict project cost, it can be fit for projects that offer out-of-the-box solutions for vendors. So you don't need to, for example, you don't need to connect traditional or waterfall approach only to some, let's say, strict organizations. It can be applied also in the IT and software companies by, having to deliver something that is, for example, out of the box and not flexible. There are no customization. So why would you then do it iteratively? If you know from the start to the end, time, cost, scope, it would be even easier for you to manage your the company that you're working for more easily. Sometimes the traditional, or let's call it a waterfall approach, is considered in the combination of agile, and that is completely fine. Sometimes traditional projects are actually started from, as I mentioned previously, a place where there are fixed requirements that need to be done, that are fixed priorities to the company that need to be delivered either by wish of management or by, for example, a strategy that you're trying to deliver. But also those kind of projects are often characterized with cost management, strict cost budgeting, strict cost management, and actually wanting to know exactly when and what you are going to, let's say, receive as an outcome, as, let's say, final delivery. To continue with other frameworks, as we mentioned before, the one that is, I think, most popular these days would be Agile and Lean framework. So the best question is, when do you apply it? So when someone, you have probably had your boss or your senior executive come from some conference or from some meeting and come to your PMO team and say, yeah, hey guys, we need to be more agile. So, and I have heard it's good, it's efficient, it's very easy to track, it's something that we should do. So let's see how we can do it. So what actually is that person trying to tell us? And what is that characterizes Agile and Lean frameworks? So if you're working in an environment with constantly changing requirements, with a team that struggles to deliver things on the set deadlines, if you feel that sometimes you are constantly, let's say, characterized as not efficient or not responsive to the changes around you enough, then it probably says that you should try to incorporate agile ways of work, methodologies, and some good case practices in your daily work. The most common practices would be that especially technical teams use come from Kanban or from Scrum, but also I would say that a lot of companies combine those ways of work and do not strictly stick to one or the other. Why this is done, and why do we actually want to be more agile? Probably the management or the organization or the market wants you to deliver faster results and to have better managed timelines through a series of different steps that would come under this organization. So what I would say is take in consideration everything you know and try to apply it in the best way that can transition you from the state that you are in now to the state where you can be fully agile, fully, let's say, easy responsive to as you would be or as you should be within either agile or a lean framework. So what are those characteristics, for example, is in Scrum that can help us be more efficient or that can help us be quicker as everyone would ask us to do? Well, first of all, you have probably all heard about Scrum, so I'll just summarize it in a few sentences. Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps people and teams and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions to the complex projects. So Scrum focuses on being both iterative, but also being an incremental at the same way. The idea behind the way of work of Scrum would be to constantly inspect and adapt cycles to reduce waste and to minimize the risks of delivering something that is not needed. But actually, I like to say to deliver the most with the least resources or the least effort. What I feel is a very good characteristic of Scrum is making sure that teams that communicate and work together are cross-functional teams, that they're not, let's say, kept in silos. They are really open, and their priority is to deliver the best chunk or part at the moment where they need to. Also, something that you can consider from Scrum is also about the prioritization. So you don't have to be fully agile, or you don't have to have fully implemented Scrum to actually think about prioritizing your scope of your project, because scopes of the projects get to be very go wide. They can start with one single idea that you need to deliver to, or one single thing that you need to do in order to satisfy a business need, and then they grow and be this big chunk of ambition that is considered your project or your program at some point. So it is a good, let's say, what we can learn from Scrum is actually to constantly prioritize things we have in our scope, constantly prioritize the functionalities, the value of the functionalities, the time invested in delivering of those, and thinking about how do we can incorporate that in the ways of that we think. Okay, To continue, then here I would just summarize it as some of the main characteristics and some of the main learnings that we can maybe steal from this methodology and apply it to something that could be useful for us. This brings us to how do we all see projects and what are the projects to us all. I like to see projects as vehicles of change, as drivers of change in organizations, of something that can in very formal way satisfy the business need that is put in front of us. But it also then brings us to the moment then if that is it, change is different, and change is different, even the same change is different within each of environments. It drives us, it brings us to the fact that depending of the type of change we want to be driving, the approach on how do we come to that change is actually different. Different approaches fit differently into environments and into organizations where we all work and exist in. So I thought about here maybe getting some breath and trying to actually share some actual projects within different frameworks that were set up in the different frameworks, just to bring it a little bit closer to you, just so that maybe I can share from the first-hand experience how some of those methodologies were applied, why those were the good choices at the time, and maybe even what the challenges were at the moment. So the first one maybe that I wanted to kick off with was I have had a chance to work for one internet service provider in the UK, and as it usually happens, the regulator contacted the company and actually issued a new regulation concerning the ways on how do you calculate some missing appointments or delays in work or things like that. And as you know, UK is very strict and regulated country, something that will be following through the new regulation, which they have set upon all internet service providers, not just us, but us as well. And we had a 6 month short period to actually deliver it, or we would have been fined in the different, let's say, in the different scenario. So what we needed to do was actually to get the first step we needed to do was very simple, to get understanding of what is needed from us as a company within that regulation. So what do actually we need to do to understand the ways on how the calculation should be done, what changes do we need to do in our systems, what reporting do we need to do, and actually to involve all different stakeholders that are on our end, but also on the regulators' end. That provided us with one scope, so we couldn't wiggle within that frame. That also provided us with a strict timeline frame, because we had a strict deadline that we couldn't have missed, or the risk would be, of course, fine, and even something worse like a reputational risk. And we had to make the changes that were also technical. So what we did, took our scope, took our budgets, and decided to go into the waterfall methodology, since we didn't have wiggle room, to be honest, about how do we go about it. So sometimes, let's say, the regulatory restrictions and the constraints that you might have, you can use them as your strengths. You can use them as formally as a format of formally organizing yourselves in the way that you would successfully deliver what is put in front of you. I cannot say that it was a preferred method of that company, but the company understood that this was the best way to go. And this was the biggest battle we won. So the battle that we needed to convince was actually internal one, to make sure that everybody understands and everybody are on board, so that we have everybody's buy-in to go ahead and deliver it in a certain way. Second, completely different approach that we had, and completely different project that we had, was actually around, we had one big collaboration with one of our partners, and one of our partners wanted to have a portal where they could have constantly being informed and reported on everything that we did with them, on the progress of the activities that we have agreed on and things like that. But it was actually an ad hoc request. It wasn't, I would say, it wasn't commissioned, or it wasn't agreed upfront. So it was a specific situation for us. And we weren't sure at the moment when we of course thought it was a good idea. It was a perfect way to communicate. It would solve us a lot of problems that we have had in front of us, especially about a large, let's say, chunk of work that we have agreed with our partner and things like that. So we actually, all the company and the relevant, let's say, management were behind the fact that the solution for all our problems was to actually have that portal up and running. So what we needed to do is actually deliver the window of reporting and the statuses of a certain project to our partners through some IT digital solutions, through some interface. So what did we do? We thought about, okay, we need to do this quick because we have already problems on our end and problems on partners' end because miscommunication is happening. We knew that we wanted, besides being quick, we wanted something that is efficient and that will tackle the biggest problems right away, and that we can build on it later on. So we don't need to have the full scope of functionalities right away. We needed to at least have, let's say, a high priority layer of information first, then second, then third, then we would be fine to wait for those. But to have quick wins constantly, it would show the understanding on our end of the problems. And also what we wanted to do was, of course, not to overspend, because it was unplanned, right? So what we did was we thought about agile, right? Because this has agile written all over it. And it was the best thing we could have done is actually get the cross-functional teams on board, have the people from different areas joining in, have a dedicated team to just work on that, since this was a high priority for our client at the moment. Deprioritized other activities that these, let's say, efforts of these critical resources were set on previously, and then started to show what would be the quickest wins, what would be the most efficient wins, what would be the cost behind it, and started to deliver very constantly, but in smaller chunks. So after 6 months, we could have shown a lot of progress than we would have had if we waited and just developed for 6 months and then had one solution presented. So why I'm showing these are examples that are black and white, and why I want to show it's the same company, it's the same environment, but the environment was, let's say, wise enough to recognize what will serve the need the best. So what would be the best purpose for, what would be the best approach for the need that we have ahead of us. Okay. So diving straight from all the actual project talks and diving straight away from the difference of the methodologies, I wanted also to share with you some tools that have been proven as good ways of work, as something that is quick and easy to implement, that helps us solve all of those not all of those, but some of those most common challenges that we face. Something like that, or some tool of that kind is a sustainability model. So you have probably heard of it. If not, I will take you through it a little bit. So what is a sustainability model? When thinking about it, it is a tool that has been developed by Project Management Institute and the Agile Alliance. It aims to serve, to provide a structure to help organizations examine the nature of the projects to make sure that they are using the right methodology, that they are actually using the right framework for the situations that they have ahead of them. The model itself has 3 categories that it scores along the way, along the process. And those 3 categories are culture, team, and project. What is specific and why those? Well, also I would like to underline here is that this tool is in the format of a questionnaire. So it can be done as a workshop, it can be done as a survey, or whatever you feel fit would be for that person, for that purpose. So what are those categories and why those 3 categories are important when doing assessment even before you kick off your project? So culture actually looks at the fact of how much of the executive buy-in you have. How much commitment of your management do you have for that idea, for that initiative, for that project, for that set of activities? It assesses that. And it also assesses how much your environment knows about different approaches, how mature it is. Is it more mature for a waterfall methodology, or is it more mature for the agile methodology? Then it comes under, when we have looked, let's say, through questions, all of that, it actually looks at the team. So it looks at the team size, because this is something that affects any project. The resources that you have assigned, the expertise that you have, the level of experience you have in the similar projects within your team. And also, do you have availability in the period where you want those resources to be engaged, for them to actually be engaged? And at the end, it assesses the project itself. So how constant is it? Is it something that there is a high probability it will change over time? Is it something that is very critical for the company? Is it something that is regulatory required? Is it something that is maybe of a big value for a company, or something that company would just appreciate to have? So those are the questions that would, in some level, assess the project itself. So how does it work? All of those questions in these categories are within one questionnaire. What is recommended to be done is actually to sit down with your core project team, and go through it, feel the pulse of it, fill out the questionnaire, score the questions, and you will get some kind of, let's say, a result scheme where you would roughly know where your project sits. So should it be more traditional? Should it be more agile? Should it be a hybrid, or somewhere in between? And why is this important? This is something that we are, I think, trying to answer throughout this session. Why is it important for us to know straight away how are we going to deliver something. It will help us actually to get where we need to be, to save our energy and invest our energy into right things that need to be done, and save us from the miscommunications, from the wasting of our time, wasting our resources, and making sure that we hit the marks and what we want to deliver with the project most directly and most efficiently. This let's say tool and the answer on how maybe we can select the right methodology brings me to the last point that I would want to share here with you. And it is something that I consider as the most valuable, to be honest. And it is the fact that we constantly need to change in order to grow, in order to be successful in everything we do, in order to be efficient, in order to be even agile, in order to be structured. We constantly need to change, and we constantly need to actually grow in all of these areas to be able to meet the expectations that are set of us. Coming to that, what does it actually take to have to implement a successful change? Well, to implement a successful change, what we need to make sure is that we constantly work on our organizational culture. The culture and the environment that we work in shapes everything around the project, shapes the culture around the decision making, about the actions and the action points that we have within the projects, and even impacts the team behavior and team commitment to the certain topics. Sometimes you will have teams that have their business as usual on top of their project work, and if organizational culture is of such nature that it nurtures projects as such and that it considers them a value of an organization, it will only be a benefit. So what can you do to make sure that you have strong organizational culture that will actually bring the right or bring the change that you need? Is actually to build the common ground and share language around the understanding of the methodologies, of the program management, of all the things that you try to implement along the way. You as a program manager or a project manager, to ensure the strong organizational culture and the right organizational culture that supports projects, should be always transparent, should lead by example, should be proactive in communication, should try to actually communicate even more but all of the things of what is of the interest for the specific stakeholder. And last but not least, let's make sure that we have, for anything that we want to change, for anything that we want to implement, let's think about how do we get executive buy-in? How do we find the common grounds and common interests when trying to deliver something? But also share your knowledge, share what you know, and share the benefits that you have acquired along the way, and the knowledge that you have collected in certain areas, as well as good case practices, to be able to meet their expectations, to fit the needs of the project and the needs of the organization in one. I feel like I have talked for too much, so I would love to hear you now. And I will, I didn't leave a lot of time, but I will now leave some time for questions and answers. My friends from have asked me to actually ask you to ask any questions in the questions and answer sections in the, here you will see in the Zoom line. So please just type them, write them, and I will make sure to try to answer it to the best that I can. So please do so. and I'll just open them to see. Okay, so I have one question in front of me. I will read it now, and I will be hoping that that others will arrive. So the question says like this: please enlighten us on the application of artificial intelligence in project management. To be honest, I would like to know more about what do you consider as an artificial intelligence in a project management. So do you feel that artificial intelligence can be considered through applications or through some learnings, or how do you actually see the artificial intelligence in project management? I feel that projects are very connected to people. Yeah, here I see, thank you for the comment. Here I see artificial intelligence in resource management. I just wanted to say that I feel that projects are very connected with people, with the way this is what we bring. So I feel that no system or application can actually I would say step into the place of a person, because environments like the human touch here, environments and business organizations and even your clients like to be understood. So in that aspect, I would say that not that we are irreplaceable, but I think that we are that special. We as an individual are that special element. In resource management, this is a good question. We struggle with this a lot. And when I say we, I mean all companies that I know. When we talk about critical resources, what we try to do in our company, we try to make sure that we have one, let's say, pool of critical resources that most of our projects that are in company portfolio use to map out the competencies, map out their capacities, to track the capacity velocity, or the, let's say, capacity consumption throughout the sprints or throughout the deliveries, and to make sure that we actually don't waste their either time or their efforts on the things that are not as high priority. How it can be done? It can be done from the simple ways of having it in one Excel sheet or in Microsoft Project, to having it done through applications like Jira and many others. So I wouldn't select one as a best case practice. I would ask myself, what is my need as a company for the resource management? What do I want to take out of it, and what are the biggest problems that I want to solve with some technical solution or a software solution? Start from there. If you know answer to all of these questions, then it's easy to get any software solution implemented. If you start from a software solution, then you are in trouble, because softwares are very rigid. Once you have it, you have it. So it might not fit to the best of your needs. I hope I understand. I hope I answered it to the best of my experience. Any other questions? I don't see them now here. Thanks. Thank you as well. I'm very sorry that I cannot see you guys and actually speak to you face to face. Okay, then since we have 5 more minutes, I'm going to ask you what, oh, good. What are the main tools, softwares to learn if a person wants to go into agile projects from waterfall projects? Well, good. This is something you have probably already seen, that most of the methodologies, even the waterfall methodologies, have variations to agile. So even PMI has PMI agile, Prince2 has a Prince2 agile, kind of a version. So it's a good place to start to get yourself informed. When I say informed, I mean get the feel of what is out there. If we talk about specific tools and specific softwares, then let's talk about what is commonly used. In my experience, the most things that are used, especially for software development and agile, let's say, environments, those are Confluence and Jira. Why? Because depending on what you do, it is a pretty adaptable. So those are pretty adaptable solutions. You can have it from just having a ticketing system, which is such a waste of the software solution, but you can have it if you feel that it fits your needs the best, to the moment where you can have a large implementation projects with the epics and let's say user stories connected to it, with the great tracking reports within it. So I know I'm boring when I constantly repeat what I have already said, but I'm going to repeat it one more time. Think about why you need it. So why do you want to learn about what is the software, what is the best tool and software that you need to go from agile projects to waterfall? Why do you want to go? Why does your environment want to switch from waterfall to agile? What are those things in your environment that you want to fix? And then start with that, and then explore other tools and other options. It will help you actually come easier to the change you want to make. Hope it is answered. I have one more question here. In your experience, which of the methodologies is used extensively and preferably by clients in Europe and even in the UK? To be honest, in the both UK companies I have worked for, we have had adapted methodologies, since we have had internal technical departments that were really strong and that we used for us. What does that mean? That means that I have personally been certified for Prince 2 because my company wanted, that was something that they invested on, but at the same time, I certified as a Scrum Master to be able to understand the different, let's say, different areas. So the methodologies that are used are usually combinations. That's why I try to always share that it is good to know more. Then you will know at least the least amount of things that you need to improve. You can recognize where are your areas for improvement. So staying informed, let's say up to date with even those let's say free online sessions that you can find even on YouTube or wherever you can, it will help you know more. I had the opportunity to work with one company here in Serbia. It's IT software company, and I came to actually understand that there is something that is called SAFe methodology. By that moment, I didn't know it, and I didn't know even if it was an agile methodology, but it really interests me. So it gave me something that I needed to explore and learn more about. And I find, to be very precise with you guys, that mostly methodologies used in the Europe and in the UK are combined methodologies to make sure that that they deliver what is needed. But fast-paced environments want to be agile, even though sometimes they can't be due to other constraints they have. So they might market as agile, but actually it is a hybrid approach that is very specific for them. That would be my honest answer. Okay, guys, now I'm very conscious of the time. We have 1 more minute left. If there are no more questions, I hope not. Then I will first like to thank you for this opportunity. I have enjoyed it. If I have talked too much, and I know I have, I apologize. I hope you have enjoyed it. I try to share a lot in this small amount of time, but I hope we will have some more opportunities to discuss maybe some specifics into more details that that any of you will find interesting. Thank you for the experience. It has been very, very pleasant for myself. And I hope to see you soon in some other occasion. Also, my friends from ProThoughts have asked me for you guys to do pools. You will see the pool, let's say, icon here. So you would answer just simple questions around the session and share some of your impressions with us. Thank you so much and hope to see you soon. Bye, guys.